Okay, welcome to this much anticipated episode. I've been asking our guests to come on the podcast for like a year, maybe longer. I don't know. So I'm excited to have her on. Jenni Whitney is here from Let's Create and Celebrate. And I initially met Jenni through my husband's real estate connections. He is kind of a master networker, and I meet a lot of people that way. But I quickly realized that her experience as a military spouse also and her creativity have given her a really great eye for celebrations. She shares amazing content. So Jenni, I'm so excited you're here and you've agreed to be on the podcast. We found the time, we got it done.
I know. I'm so glad that you're having me on and we could make it work with all of our schedules and our busy dual military lifestyles. So I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Tell us a little bit about your background. We said you're a military spouse, you have this like party celebration um, influencer gig that you're now doing. How did all of this kind of come to be?
So I've always loved crafting and celebrating. As a military spouse, I always create and celebrate everyday moments, not just the big holidays and things like that. And then during the pandemic, I was homeschooling both of our children. I kind of needed a creative outlet to fuel my creative passion, to give me something that was ownership of mine. So I started sharing on social media about it. I wanted to inspire others to create intentional memories in their homes, especially during difficult times. A lot of people were at home and trying to find joy in the everyday moments. And I was trying to inspire that in others, as well as feeding my creative outlet.
That is awesome. I'm glad that you found some joy in the pandemic and in homeschooling. I wouldn't say
Yes.
that I had the same outlook. So,
There were challenges, but
yeah. So you
leaning it,
definitely like you took on the whole homeschool thing.
yes. We pulled our son from school because we knew that they would never go back into school. They never did, even a year later. So I felt that I would do better if I was in control of my time and our time and not learning on a screen. So I also had a 3-year-old at the time, so trying to also keep her entertained. So I kind of just rolled it in and put it all in there together. I did a lot of themed and holiday things for school, so it wasn't necessarily a very strict curriculum, but we made it work and made it fun. So
That's so cool. More power to you. I could never. So that's good. I know your kids are super important to you. Obviously, like you said, you took on that whole role of like teaching them and stuff. What are some of your favorite ways to make memories with your kids? And that's like I just said, maybe not the best or maybe not the gift all of us have. How would you encourage others to do the same, to like make those memories and be intentional about it?
I think really just lean into your family and what your intentional memories for your family mean to you. So if that means, family movie nights on a Friday, start simple. You don't need to throw a $10,000 birthday party for your child with all of the things to make happy memories within your home. We do family movie nights on Fridays. Sometimes that looks like charcuterie boards of candy and popcorn and snacks. And sometimes I grab leftover Halloween candy from the bin and we pop some microwave popcorn and we have frozen pizzas in the oven. I mean, it doesn't have to be elaborate. I think start simple, start small, and create that tradition in your home. And your kids will remember that you do movies every Friday. They won't remember how elaborate and fancy anything was. And I think that's the biggest way to get started. And then you may roll into doing more elaborate events or other activities within your family and friends, but I think starting small and easy is probably the best way to get going.
I couldn't agree more. That's great. Great advice. Do you feel like your kids, like you've established some of these traditions and these memories and these things, habits that your family does? If you don't do them, like one Friday night, you don't do a movie, do your kids ask, like, why are we not doing this? Like, is it part of them now too?
It is. They definitely ask about it. Or if we are going on vacation, we were just out of town for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, and they ask, "Are we doing? Well, it's Friday." Especially my oldest, he's 11, so he's like, "It's Friday. Are we doing our thing?" Or um, have expectations for things, but they also, being military kids, adapt so well. I mean, we've celebrated holidays months in advance due to deployments or long, extended time away. And so we we'll celebrate birthdays a month early if our family happens to be in town. So I think they can adapt really well because of their resiliency as military kids.
Yeah, it's a great point. I love that you're kind of like giving us permission. Like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to celebrate on the day. And I think a lot of times people, especially like non-military families, like don't really understand that of like, well, the birthday is this day. That's the day that we have to do the thing. And it's like, no, not really, especially when they're really young. Like you can totally trick them and be like, your birthday's today. And it's not for 6 more months and they don't know. But
Yes, totally. My son's birthday is December 14th. So it's so close to Christmas. We oftentimes would have family in town in November to celebrate the Marine Corps Ball. Our family will come in and watch the kids for us usually. So we've oftentimes done my son's birthday party around the middle of November, and it makes my life so much easier for the month of December. And we've done it out of necessity because we're a military family, but it's great. I encourage anyone else to do that too, because December is busy enough as it is.
yeah, that's such a great point. And good for us to like hear it from somebody else that's done it and know that it's okay to do it. So as we were kind of talking before about, starting small, setting those traditions and doing those things, making those memories with your family. In today's world of like social media, Instagram, all the stuff, how do you recommend somebody go about doing those things without like spending a ton of money or just like feeling this pressure that they have to go above and beyond or overboard or like live up to what they're seeing online?
I would say to save money, use what you have. I always go through like what I have and pull from what I have. I pull it all out, see what I have, and then I add in things using the dollar store or affordable places to purchase things. It doesn't have to be super expensive and elaborate, like I said before. Think about what serves you and what serves your guest. If you're hosting a dinner party, the people that you're inviting, or if you're having a party for your child, what will they really remember and what's going to be impactful to them? Is it going to be a 10-foot balloon garland on the wall, or is it going to be activities that they get to do with their friends and have a good time? And a pinata. I mean, my kids love a pinata. It's like the easiest thing ever, but they think it's the coolest thing. And so I think spending your time and your resources on being intentional about what's best for your guests and what serves you, what your strong suits are. Are you a great cook? Make everything from scratch. I don't really do that when I have parties for my kids. I do a ton of DIYs, a ton of crafts. I make a ton of decorations, and then I order all the food because I can't do it all. No one does it all. You usually have a strong suit. You lean into your friends or family that can kind of provide some of that support in those other areas. And just try not to compare yourself to others, because your kids will remember, or your guests will remember, their time with you and the memories made, not how elaborate or expensive everything was.
It's such a great reminder. And I think we always need to hear like no one does it all and you're not doing every single thing for every single party. I think we get caught up in the like, I have to cook this and I have to decorate this and I have to wrap the gifts and I have to plan. And it's like, you can ask for help or just like you said, like not do it all, outsource some of that stuff, which is really great. Um, the content that you're sharing on your Instagram feed is really impressive. I know, you know, with the holidays and the things that you are sharing, it's just like really fun to look at and it's really pretty. Have you ever encountered like hosting somebody or being hosted by somebody else? They know that you like love celebrating and love hosting and crafting and all that stuff. Have they ever like expressed that they are intimidated because you like to do that so much? Like I know I've hosted people where they're like, I was so nervous to come, or I was nervous to have you over because like you talk about parties all the time. So like, have you experienced that at all?
I have, especially with kids' parties. I will say I have friends that
Mm.
are like, well, it's not going to be one of your parties, but we're just going to order pizza or this or that. And that it's totally fine. I always tell people, don't ever feel intimidated by that. I value the time spent together, the community, the relationships that we're building, and that holds so much more value than anything else that is part of this party. And if you know that that person really goes out of their way to celebrate and create all these huge parties or big celebrations, they do that because they really enjoy it. I enjoy doing that. That's why I do it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. And not everybody enjoys it. It's okay. And I think just knowing that if that person does that much work and time into a celebration, know that they also value the community and the conversations even more. And so try not to let that intimidate you, because they really want to come to your house to create relationships, and that's what they value the most.
Yes, so so good. I love that you said like you value the relationships and the connections you're making more than the other stuff. And I agree. Like I get joy out of making the other stuff and planning the party stuff and doing the decorating. Like I get joy out of that, but it's not to impress someone. It's because I enjoy doing it, like you said. And it's such a great reminder that none of that really matters. It's just really the people.
It really doesn't. And I would say that if you are someone that hosts, offer help. I'm always like, well, you don't have to have, a huge elaborate party, but if you want me to come over and make a balloon garland for your kid's birthday party, I'll come do it for you. Is that something that you want? If you don't want it, don't do it. But if you want help, I'm willing to help you with that. Or do you want me to help you come up with a menu, or like source decorations? I'm looking at stuff like that so often at shops and stores that I can usually pull it off the top of my head. I don't actually have to even go to Google or Pinterest to find it, because it is in my wheelhouse all the time, that I can offer that advice and that help to others. And if they can come to you to ask for help, they probably aren't going to be as intimidated to have you over. And knowing that you're willing to give your resources and your skills to others.
I love that, like sharing your gifts with others if it's maybe not something that they want to do or enjoy doing. And I've actually like shared party decorations before. Like, hey, I have this like giant balloon garland. I don't want to just pop all these balloons and destroy the environment with them. Like, can somebody else use this? And sometimes people
I
take it.
I will bundle up all of our leftover paper party supplies from parties, banners, different things, and I put them on our like free yard sale page on Facebook and try to give them away, because I do feel bad about the environment for some of the things that I create. It is a lot of over consumerism, and I do my best to try to reuse it. I'm actually our school has a holiday event coming up, and I'm creating like a whole balloon arch for our Elf on the Shelf arrival this weekend. And I'm taking the balloon arch over to the school after to decorate for their holiday chef. So I'm with you. I try to reuse as much as I can.
I love that. It does make me feel bad about like blowing up latex balloons all the time, but I'm just like, I need to find another way to use these. That's good. Um, Talking about like being crafty and DIYing and doing a lot of that stuff yourself, what advice would you give somebody who maybe likes to be crafty, but is like maybe gotten out of the habit of doing it, or like maybe wants to do it, but doesn't really know where to start? I feel like sometimes crafts can be kind of intimidating, especially as an adult. As a kid, you just like, throw finger paint on a paper or something and call it cool. But, we see the stuff online and we kind of want to live up to it, but maybe we're scared to like dip our toe back into the whole like crafty space. What kind of advice do you have for somebody?
Well, I also go through creative ruts with crafting and DIYs. I go through phases where I don't make anything, and I oftentimes will, as mine are usually holiday related or a themed party for my kids. But as the holidays approaching, I go to the mall or go to different local shops, or I go online to Pottery Barn, or like whatever your favorite kind of style is. And I go to their sites and I kind of look through magazines and catalogs, and I see inspiration from those things. And then I think, oh, well, that's really pretty, but I could probably recreate that for a lot less. And so that's kind of what serves my inspiration. And then I also know that the first thing that I create after coming out of like a rut of not creating or doing crafts, it's usually just an inspiration piece. I go in with the expectation that this is probably going to be a fail. We've all had Pinterest fails. That's kind of, I assume that's how it's going to be, but it usually gets the creative juices flowing, gets the ball rolling for my next, whatever the next thing I create is usually really excellent. But I know that that first thing is kind of going to be like, it's just part of the process. So I think don't get intimidated if the first thing you create or craft is not a big win. It usually gives you skills, or you've learned, that this paint doesn't work on this surface, or whatever the case may be, and you learn from it. So you are, creating your skill set to be able to create other crafts in the future.
I cannot agree more that like you have to set your expectations. I love that you said that, because it's like I totally go through that. I feel like I've been in that rut of like not crafting or creating for like a couple of years now. So it's like, I don't know, to like start doing that again, knowing like set the expectation that it's probably not going to be that great, or it might not work, or maybe it doesn't even like spark that like drive to keep doing it. But at least you took a step. I think that's really great to set those expectations. It's a good tip. As a military family, we're similar in this way. I'm sure you spent a lot of time away from family during the holidays. What are some things that you've done to kind of make those times really special, even if you're not celebrating with family, or maybe your family, your immediate family is gone, your husband is in the Marine Corps, maybe he's gone or deployed. So how are you making those things special when you're away?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit before. So we've probably celebrated every holiday not in its month at some point in time during our 18 years of marriage. I mean, if he's going to deploy, we've done like Thanksgiving. We did a mini Thanksgiving meal one year early before he deployed because it was like his favorite holiday, and he loved watching football and eating the Thanksgiving meal. So we made the whole meal a couple months early. We, like I said, celebrate my son's birthday early when we have family in town, just because it makes sense. So I think just knowing that you can do things not on their actual holidays, whether you're military or not, and create the traditions within your family. You don't have to do what your parents did with you. You can create your own thing with your kids. If it doesn't serve your immediate family anymore, don't feel obligated to keep doing it because your parents did it with you. We do, go look at Christmas lights, or we do the elf on the shelf. I did not have an elf on the shelf when I was a kid, but my kids love it. And it's something that we do. Sometimes it's elaborate, sometimes it's very simple. It depends on what season of my life I'm in. Knowing that if you didn't do it huge this year, you can always do it bigger next year. If I've had where my husband's gone, or I have one of my kids are an infant, I'm not going all out on all the things. I mean, I had my son's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese one year because it served me. And it's okay. Just because you had those off years in any of your traditions or celebrations, don't feel like, okay, it's over, I can't continue it. Know that we all have ebbs and flows within our seasons of life, and you can always pick up a new tradition next year or skip a year and do it again the following year. And just make it special within your family. Create your own traditions. It doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive, and it can just be within your immediate family. But your kids are going to remember that.
Those are really great points. I love that you said, like, you don't have to do what your parents did. And I think being in a military lifestyle where you're like away from your like kind of extended family almost forces you to like find those new traditions and be okay with not doing those things. Like, you don't have to like set the table with China because your mother or mother-in-law is not coming to town, and that's okay. You're kind of like forced to not follow their rules. And I think sometimes that's nice to like
It is
not
very
have
nice.
to do what they did. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so funny. I'm just thinking about like things when I was little, or like growing up, of like things my mom did. And I'm like, I don't do any of those anymore.
I mean, my mom cooked everything from scratch. The fact that I order everything when I have my kids' parties, because they really just want pizza and cake. They don't really care. If I'm hosting a family for dinner, I make the food because I'm not doing a ton of crafts and DIYs and decorations. So I think, we definitely do things a lot differently than I did growing up. But some of the things are the same. I would say we always celebrated and made intentional family memories within our home for all the holidays. And I think that's something that I continue to do with my family. So
That's awesome. It sounds like you grew up in a similar kind of way, like crafting, making memories, parties, celebrating was like a part of your family growing up too. Is that correct?
it was, but we didn't have a lot growing up. That's why we made a lot. I think that's why I started being crafty. I used to make Barbie doll clothes for my dolls because I wanted more Barbie doll clothes, or I would repurpose things in our home for doll furniture for my baby dolls or whatever. And my mom was always really crafty. We did holiday decorations because we didn't have a lot of money. And that's what really forced me to start being creative at a young age. But we were also far from family. My parents moved to Michigan from Arkansas when I was 1 years old. So we only saw our extended family usually around Christmas once a year. So I started creating these memories within just my immediate home as a child. And I think that kind of gave me a lot of experience that served me well as a military spouse, knowing I didn't have all my cousins at my birthday parties or any of these things. It was always very normal to me. So the military lifestyle has not been as big of an adjustment for me as I think it is for a lot of families. Um, and so knowing that I've kind of saw my mom create all of those things within our home and I have those memories and traditions, and knowing that I can do that as well with my kids.
That's so cool that it's like you said, like it has translated well to your life as a military spouse and moving around a lot. Is there something that your family in particular does to kind of connect with those around you when you are moving to a new place, like with your neighbors, or something that helps you build friendships quickly? Because it sounds like you kind of grew up that way. Is it something that's like ingrained, or is there something that you're intentional about that you try and do everywhere you go?
I think because we move so often, you have to kind of dive in really quickly. You know this, and you create really close relationships really quickly. We spend a lot of time outside if we have a playground or a park. I have young kids, so we're outside a lot. We meet the other neighbors, we introduce ourselves, we invite them over. I mean, we moved in June and I had two military spouses over for an event that I had in September. So I had only lived here for a few months. I invited them into my home. And I think you kind of have to trust the community around you and have some faith in people and just know that um, you kind of just have to get it started and invite people in. And we also do, like around Halloween, we do the boo your neighbor thing. So we do that to a lot of new neighbors, and that kind of gets the relationship growing. Or around Christmas, we may make a ton of baked goods and then bring little goodie bags to all the different neighbors. And that kind of gets that relationship going. I volunteer at the kids' school for their PTO, which helps build relationships and community. And then I always try to volunteer with my husband's unit. Sometimes the volunteer opportunities or the unit may have a different structure than always. I know you guys have been overseas a few times. I would assume that that's a little bit different there. But volunteering in any capacity at your church, at the PTO, I think helps build that community and meet more people quickly.
Yeah, those are really great ways to really connect with others. And it's kind of like things that you're already going to be doing anyway. So it's just kind of like built into your life. Like you're already going to see your neighbors when you're walking down the street. So say hi. You're already going to, go to church. So volunteer for something or whatever. So it's nice that those things are kind of like built in and that it's been successful for you as you've moved around. And like I said, it kind of sounds like you grew up that way too. And so, like you said, like the transition wasn't as jarring or difficult, but it's nice that, you've probably found ways along the way that like make it easier and make it successful and build those connections in that community. So I agree that like military spouses, you have to like go like hard, fast, deep, whatever like word you want to use. But like I have felt since we've moved and we're in much more of like a civilian situation now, with my husband being retired and my military work is not like super demanding. Um, I'm like wanting people to like go deeper sometimes. And I'm just like, they don't get it because it's like they're
No.
not used to it. They're like, oh, I have like years to build this relationship. And in my head, I'm like, oh no, we're like a year in. Like we should be best friends by now. And we're not. Like,
Right.
why not?
I
It's just,
remember my son, we moved right a week before he started kindergarten, and we moved to all the way from Virginia to California. And I had met a family. We still didn't have housing yet. We were like in, I think, the base hotel. And I met this other family, and the husband was going to be working with my husband. And they had a little playground outside of the hotel. And our kids played together every day for a week. And I said, this is really strange, but will you be my son's emergency contact for kindergarten? I knew this person for a week. It was so wild to me. And that was my first experience having a child in school. And so it just felt so odd. But as I've realized since then, he's 11 now, it is very common in the military lifestyle. And most people will say yes.
yeah, for sure. Like I constantly am like, use me. I'll be your emergency contact. That's fine, whatever. It's so funny though, like being in this kind of civilian side of things now, we say stuff like that, thinking nothing of it because it's our experience. It blows people's minds when you tell like somebody that has no affiliation with the military whatsoever that, oh yeah, like I had to leave for 2 weeks for training. And they're like, what? You've left your kids
Right.
for 2 weeks? I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like on the short side. It's fine. Or like, oh, had somebody as emergency contact after knowing them a week. They are just blown away. It's so funny the like differences in lifestyles. But anyway,
Yes.
um, this has been really great. I think you've given us a lot of encouragement and reassurance to kind of do things our own way, make our own traditions with our own families, and not be afraid to like try something, DIY something, craft something, and not worry if it's not Pinterest worthy or whatever. So it's great. I know people will probably want to know more about you and see more of the things that you're sharing. So tell us where we can find you online. We'll make sure all of the links are in the show notes. And then we'll get into your last call questions, which I think are going to be fun.
So I mostly share the majority of my content on Instagram. And it's at let's underscore create underscore and underscore celebrate. So that one's a little bit difficult, but I'm sure you'll link it. But that's where people can find the majority of my content. I do share on TikTok and Facebook, but it's a little bit less so.
Yeah. We'll definitely have a link to it. It is funny whenever those names get kind of like uppercase, lowercase, whatever. Like it's funny. Okay, let's get into these last call questions. The first one is, what is the best party that you've ever hosted?
So I've thrown some pretty epic parties for my kids, but I would feel a little biased if I picked one over the other. So I'm not going to include the kids' parties. Um, I recently hosted a favorite things party for it ended up all being military spouses, people that I have known over the 18 years I've been a military spouse, people that I told you I just met a few neighbors recently, and it was just so nice to have all of these women together. I think there were like 10 or 12 of us, and there were no kids. Adam actually took our kids to the movies so that to get them out of the house, and just to see everybody just relax. Most of the time we're serving others. I mean, I did a lot of prep work and I served, but to see the women just relax and be able to conversate and not have to constantly be waiting on their children or anybody else, it was very nice. Everybody really connected. The favorite things parties are super fun. I don't know, have you ever hosted one or
No,
attended?
I've never done it. And I like every time somebody says it, I'm like, man, I really want to do that. And I just have never done it.
Well, I'll give the little background just so that people understand what it is. So you basically bring three of your favorite things. Usually there's a budget, $10 or so. So you bring three of the same exact thing. Maybe it's a bottle of wine or a beauty product or whatever it is that you really love. And then you wrap those three individually. You go around and basically draw names. And when you give out your gifts to the people that are receiving them, you tell a little bit about why that's your favorite thing. So it's a great way to kind of get to know somebody, really know what they're passionate about. Usually somebody's really passionate about beauty products or cooking or anything. And so it's a cool way to really get to know people. It's a great icebreaker. And you end up leaving with three gifts. You brought three gifts and you leave with three gifts. So it's really a fun way to try out new products and things like that as well. The women really connected. They ended up, some of them knew each other from mutual friends in the past. Some of them, one of the ladies, they found out that their kids were on the same soccer team, so they may not have connected on the soccer field, but this gave them an opportunity to kind of have a deeper conversation and more meaningful. So I felt like it was a really full circle moment. So many people had a lot of other connections, and it really filled my heart to see everybody connect and kind of get a day off and really just enjoy the moment and get to know each other. So
I love that, so many things about that. I love that you said that it was a moment for them to relax. Like that is something I hadn't really thought of, is when we can attend something like that without our kids, where we're not serving them, like you said, or chasing them around, and you get to like just chill. Like that's really cool. I love that the favorite things party is like an activity built in to
mm-hmm.
like the whole thing, because like you said, you get to describe it or whatever, and that it shows your personality, which I think is a really cool point that maybe you're not thinking of. You're thinking like, oh, I just need to bring these gifts, but it's like, oh no, this is a thing that like kind of shows who I am. And it's a great, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, icebreaker and way to connect on a deeper level. So at some point I'm going to throw one of these parties because it's such a fun idea. I will say here, we may get cut off, and if we do, we'll just use the same link and come right back on.
Okay.
I don't pay for Zoom, so it's just 40 minutes. So,
Okay.
okay, we'll get into the next one here, and that is, what is the best community that you've been a part of, and what's made it so great?
I will say the military spouse community. I mean, like I said, people willing to be your emergency contact for your kid after knowing you for a week, people inviting you into your home after only knowing you for a month. It's people that really become your family, and they know that there's at any given time that they're going to need you. So they're willing to drop everything. I mean, I've had friends, I was sick and had my husband was deployed, and I had friends watching my kids so that I could go to the doctor, but they knew that my kid was probably exposed to whatever I had, and they were probably going to get the sickness, but they knew I had no other choice, and they're willing to do that. I mean, people bring meals to my home every day. When my father passed away and I left to go to the funeral, they made sure that my husband and the rest of my family were still fed while I was away. I mean, just there are so many examples that I can give. There would never be enough time. It's just such an amazing community. The most selfless people that I've ever seen. They give not only to their family and their service member being a military spouse, but they're constantly serving and giving back to their community as well.
Yep, I couldn't say it better myself. All such good things. And then lastly, what is your best party hosting tip?
I think the biggest thing that I always try to do when I host a party is not only just for budget, for functionality, for time, is have something serve multiple purposes. So, like the favorite things party, it was a gift that people got to take home, but it was also an activity. I've had where I have favors on the tables at my kids' parties, and they serve kind of as a decor on the table, a favor that the people get to take home. And then I will put a tag on it with the guest's name so that it serves as a place setting on top of that. So anything that can serve multiple purposes, I think is a great way to stretch your budget and just kind of serve the party. And it definitely helps. We did for my daughter's birthday one year, she had a mermaid party, and we made little wooden treasure chests, and they put kinetic sand and pearls and beads and stuff inside of it. It was like a whole little sensory table activity at the party. And then they got this little kind of at home travel sensory kit to take home with them when they left the party. So just serving multiple purposes with your items. You could have flowers on the table as a centerpiece, and then you maybe do like DIY bouquets or something like that. So you're serving multiple different purposes with your pieces of your party.
I love that. It's such a great tip. And I love when like the flower thing just made me think like it serves as decor, it serves as a favor for somebody to take home, but then it also like helps clean up your house after the party. Like you're not
Yes.
stuck with that stuff anymore. Such a good tip. So Jenni, thank you so much for being here. I think people are going to love following you and take home some encouragement, like I said, to just create and celebrate a little bit after this. So thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome.
You're welcome.